What would you give up to be able to play in the NFL? Would you give up your health after your playing days are over? Would you give up on 20 years of your life to have 7 years in the NFL? If you were an NFL player, what would make you walk away from playing the game you love and earning millions of dollars? That's the question we ask when we think about Arizona Cardinals safety Pat Tillman. Tillman walked away from a $3.6 million contract to join the U.S. Army in the months following the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. He had played 4 seasons in the NFL and started 10 games in his rookie year, and even turned down a $9 million contract offer from the St. Louis Rams because of his loyalty to the Cardinals. This was the kind of man that Pat Tillman was. He was loyal and selfless. He liked playing football, and Pat was good at it, but he didn't live for football either. Pat played for Arizona State and was an undersized linebacker. He was only 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighed 202 pounds. He was all Pac-10 for 3 years, twice voted to the second team and then voted to first team his senior year. Pat was voted an All-American his senior year. His senior year, he also helped lead the Arizona State Sun Devils to an undefeated season and a trip to the Rose Bowl. He was voted the Pac-10's Defensive Player of the Year and was Arizona State's MVP. Tillman was a brilliant student. He majored in marketing and graduated with a 3.85 GPA and earned several academic rewards. He was an atheist, but Tillman liked to read about philosophy and different religions. He read the Bible, the Quran, and other religious texts to compare the way many people around the world live. He tried to do the right thing and stand up for people when he could. And to his family and friends, Pat always wanted to do more. If you don't know the story of Pat Tillman, you may be wondering why we keep talking about him in the past tense. Well, Pat Tillman is gone. He died for a cause, but we'll get to that in a minute. Tillman would climb up the light posts at Sun Devil Stadium, which his college coaches did not like. But Pat would climb high above the stadium and sit and think as he watched the surrounding mountains and the people down below. In preparation for the NFL draft, someone asked Pat how many times he can bench press the 225 pounds that is the standard test for future NFL players. He laughed and said, "Dude, I max 225, then I rack it." He was taken in the 7th round by the Arizona Cardinals. At that time, the Cardinals played in the same stadium as Arizona State. Tillman would have a different locker room, but in the same building where he had played his college ball. Pat played well in the NFL. His determination and grit made him a game-changing safety and made him a fan favorite as well. He never made a Pro Bowl, but his play got the attention of fans and several in the media. Sports Illustrated writer Paul Zimmerman named Tillman to his 2000 NFL All-Pro team after Tillman finished with 155 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 9 pass deflections, and 1 interception for 30 yards. Just 1 week after the start of the 2001 NFL season, the world changed. Terrorist attacks on U.S. soil impacted the country like nothing had since World War II. Tillman played that year. Then he did something unexpected, but was honored by anyone who heard about it. Pat Tillman gave up pro football to join the U.S. Army. He wasn't just joining the Army, but he was going to be an Army Ranger. Rangers are elite soldiers who are among the best in the world. The training and selection is tough. Only about 50% make it through Ranger school, but that's what Pat did. He enlisted with his younger brother in May of 2002. They went through basic training together and volunteered to be Army Rangers. They both graduated from Ranger School and served in the same unit in Iraq and Afghanistan. One mission the Tillman brothers were a part of in 2003 received national attention. An American soldier named Jessica Lynch had been captured in Iraq, and the Tillman brothers were part of the Rangers that served as the backup unit during her rescue. On April 22, 2004, the Tillman brothers' Army Rangers platoon of 40 soldiers was on deployment to one side of the most dangerous places in eastern Afghanistan, the Khost province near the border with Pakistan. The Ranger platoon was split into 2 convoys. Pat was in the first convoy and Kevin was in the second. Pat's group was to go through a narrow, steep canyon and arrive at a village to search for enemy fighters and weapons caches. Kevin's group was to take a different route to transport a disabled Humvee. But unknown to the first convoy, the second followed the same path, but just a few minutes behind. Pat's group made it through the canyon without any problems. Kevin's group got ambushed, and the Rangers were in a fierce gunfight. Platoon members in the first convoy heard gunfire, and Tillman rushed to the position on a ridge where he could see down into the canyon where Kevin and the other Rangers were fighting for their lives. Another Ranger and an allied Afghan militiaman were with Tillman. These three fired at the enemy from the ridge's top. An Afghan ally was armed with an AK-47 rifle, which were used by Afghans in both friendly forces and by the enemy, such as the Taliban. The AK-47 was the problem. Rangers under attack in the second group also saw an Afghan national on the ridge shooting an AK-47 in their direction. They thought this was an enemy. The Rangers returned fire against the men on the ridge top. Pat Tillman tried to pop a smoke grenade, which would signal that they were friendly, but it was too late. Both Pat and the Afghan ally were killed, not by the Taliban, but by the U.S. Rangers they were trying to protect. The U.S. military calls this friendly fire, but there is nothing friendly about it. Friendly fire happens in wars, but it's tragic each time it occurs. The well-placed shots fired by elite U.S. Rangers found their mark, and they could not be taken back. Pat Tillman died protecting his brothers, both his real brother Kevin and his brothers in the Rangers. But the story gets even worse. The Army covered up what really happened. They portrayed Pat as a hero, which he was. He died trying to save others. But the Army knew what had really happened just hours after the tragic events on that ridgetop, and they did not release the truth. Even Kevin did not know. He was there, but Kevin was involved with a different part of the fight and did not see what happened to his brother. Over a month later, the story finally broke that Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire. Many people criticized the Army for covering up the truth. Others wondered if Pat would have stayed in the NFL instead of needlessly dying on a mountain in Afghanistan. Pat Tillman's jersey numbers have been retired for both Arizona State and for the Cardinals. For Arizona State, the number 42 will never be worn again, and for the Cardinals, he wore number 40. It's been about 20 years since Pat was killed on the ridgetop in Afghanistan. The NFL season will soon begin, and there will be reasons to cheer and boo and cuss and fuss as we watch our favorite teams. But before that begins, stop and think. What would you give up a dream for? Who would you protect no matter what it cost? Rest in peace, Pat Tillman.